Hey, everybody, this is Ken Tucker. Welcome to this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about a survey really of the online advertising landscape. There are several different options, and this is pretty broad and we try to get a little thorough in some areas, but it's certainly not everything that's out there in the world of online advertising, but really kind of the top channels that we typically see. And so we're going to be really kind of digging into that today, and see when they work, how they work, why they work, and maybe who they're best suited for. So with that, I'm joined today by by Paul and Ian, and then Jeff will be joining us by video for some of the answers on questions that I ask him. So, Ian, I'm going to start with you. The online landscape, really consider, and you're all going to be able to chime in here, in terms of different types of online ads. I wanted to start first with you. If you could talk about both pay-per-click or search style ads and also display ads, that'd be great.
For sure. Yeah. And just to be clear, these are some of my favorite topics. So I'm really glad we're talking about this, Ken.
Awesome.
So search ads. So I'll often refer to these as Google pay-per-click ads, but Bing has these, some of the other search platforms have them, but what they are is they are the text-based display ads that are displayed at the top of search engine results, like Google, Bing, and really how, some people don't even differentiate between what's an ad and what's an organic result, right? Like not everybody understands those. And so, ads can work really well. How they work is that you as an advertiser, your business, would bid on relevant keywords. So you would say, if you're a plumber, you would say, I want to show up when somebody types in the word emergency plumber or leaky faucet or clogged toilet, or it could be a myriad of things. And the choosing of those keywords is really important. But the main point of how it works is you basically fill your campaign with the keywords you want to show up for. And then you create ads, and those ads are presented to the user. And when a user searches for that keyword, your ad might appear. There's a lot of different factors. It's an auction. So as I said, you bid on it. You set bidding criteria when you set up your campaigns in your account. And you only pay when somebody clicks on your ad. So that's why it's called pay per click. It can be really, really effective. The effectiveness of these types of ads, one of the studies that we really like amongst the marketing guides here is called a word stream. What's the actual title of it, Ken? Do you remember?
Boy,
It's like
I don't.
it's an annual study that they do on all of the ad platforms, and they cover everything from cost per click across industries, conversion rates. So it's really valuable because it's hard to find that information, out in the wild, and
Yeah,
certainly none of
great
the
for ad.
platforms.
Yeah, great for ad budget planning.
Absolutely. So, can be super effective. I don't think I'm stepping out of line to say, at least from my perspective, this is kind of your next layer on top of SEO. So you want to get the organic tree growing so that you can gather that fruit. But then on top of that, imagine if you could extend that tree out even further and capture more fruit. That's what you can do with the search ads. Interestingly enough, like the average across industry conversion rate is about 3.1%, but there's some really interesting outliers there. The vehicle searches get almost 8% conversion rate. Law and government gets a 7.4% conversion rate. And then on the other end, apparel searches get quite a low conversion rate, which is 2.7%. So that's updated this year. I can say, though, that when you set up your Google ads, and Bing ads. But again, Bing owns a smidgen of the search property out there, the number of searches. Google still owns that. But if you build it properly, if you categorize everything properly, you choose the right keywords, you're going to reap amazing ROI from it. We see that across the board with the clients that we have. So some experts that you might be aware of or not aware of are Brad Geddes, Chris Ferguson. Just if you're interested in learning more about this, either find an expert in the field, because a lot of times you guys probably hear this all the time, as much as I do, but you'll get businesses coming to you and say, they might want something in particular, but then you'll broach the topic of online advertising and they'll say, I tried it, it didn't work. And you're like, oh, okay, well, tell me a little bit more about that, right? So a lot of times people will try it on their own without any real direction or expertise, or other times they'll usually try to kind of choose the cheapest provider, and then they don't get the best results. So those are just a few tips. And then, so that's search. So that's a search ad. On the other side, Google also offers display ads. And so search ads are highly qualified. People are actually searching for those terms. That's why they're so valuable, because you're actually connecting with a qualified buyer at the time that they're most interested in buying or researching. So super powerful. Display ads, both on the Google ad platform, Bing. Display ads are also, very similar to Facebook ads, which we'll get into later, bunch of other ad platforms. Display ads are really more like disruptive banners, right? Like you're driving along, there's a banner, you see it, you're not really looking for anything, but it might tweak your interest. So you might dig into it. And display ads work. They're visual ads, they're images, they're banners, they're displayed across different websites. You might see them on like the Weather Network or any number of websites out there. There's the Google Display Network is quite large. How they work, though, is you can do some targeting. You can target based on demographics, interests, actual websites. You can back out certain websites if you don't want to show up on certain types of websites. And you pay per impression. So it's radically different than the pay-per-click. You pay per impression. So it's cost per thousand is really what you're looking at there. You can do some cost per click as well, but those are usually very specific types of campaigns. The effectiveness of these, it can be good. It's like another layer of effectiveness. So again, I wouldn't jump to display ads before search ads, because it's a different type of person you're disrupting rather than getting in front of a qualified buyer. But they can work really well. Click-through rates for display ads, it's going to sound really small, but you're also talking about displaying it to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So it's usually about a 0.1%, sometimes 0.2. It's pretty low, but again, it's a numbers game. And the cost per thousand is going to be very low compared to a cost per click, because essentially you're just putting it out there. So that's kind of a summary, long-winded summary of search ads and display ads.
Yeah.
Any other comments, guys?
No, I think that's great. I think they're both something that you definitely need to take a look at, and every client situation is different, and every budget's different. And so, one of the reasons we wanted to do this today is to just kind of give everybody an idea of what are the options that are out there, and, try to help people understand maybe where they're most effective. So, yeah.
Yeah. And Ken, I know we've talked about this before. Like you have, when you're talking to clients, when it comes to social media, you have kind of this hierarchy of, what to do first and then what to build on that foundation. Similarly, when it comes to advertising, every business is unique, but I would say if there's prospects searching for you online, then these two ad platforms, or these two types of ads on the same platforms, like their foundational level stuff to me, it shouldn't be skipped. There's probably no other ad platforms that will perform as well for you as the Google ad platform.
Yeah, I mean, when you do a quick and dirty analysis, you can get an idea of, based on the appetite for growth that a business has, how many leads they want to get per month. Knowing, the typical conversion rates of a pay-per-click type of an ad, like the WordStream article is going to help you figure out that still may not drive enough leads for you, even, because the total volume of searches, and that are actually clicked on to get people onto your website may not be enough. So a great strategy is to layer on top of that the display ads to help drive more traffic, to get more people who are maybe more at the top of the funnel, coming to your website. And when you layer these in the right way, it can be very cost effective.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Agreed.
All right. So Paul, let's kind of transition over to another couple of type of ad platforms or types, I should say. Remarketing ads and also Yelp ads.
Yeah, remarketing ad. Ian said he loves to talk about this topic. I like to talk about it in relation to how Google continues to screw over small businesses. They just had a major judgment against them about how they were manipulating cost per click. So I don't want to discourage anyone, but Google is not exactly playing fair.
You just did.
Yeah.
But remarketing ads can be very effective. Okay, so they are display ads, but the difference, generally they're display ads. If you have a large enough audience or customer list, you can remarket in a search type format, but most small businesses aren't going to have a big enough list to do that.
Yeah, it's a pretty sizable list that's required.
It is. It's huge. So it's generally going to be display ad. But the difference is that you are targeting people that have met certain criteria. They've visited certain pages on your website, or they've clicked on an ad. So basically you're creating an audience. And whereas the display ads Ian was talking about, it's basically, like he said, it's disruptive. It displays to anyone that goes to this website or does whatever. Whereas a remarketing ad, it's still a display ad, but it's targeting people that have only in some way have interacted with your business. So that's basically what differentiates them. Unless you're in certain areas of the legal profession, then Google will screw you over in other ways. We're dealing with that right now for an attorney, that they constantly say that they're in violation of some policy and it's a list that Google created. We didn't even create the list. So I won't go down that road anymore. But they use, how they work is they use cookies, at least for now, and cookies are going to disappear, and Google, Microsoft, Facebook, they're implementing other strategies to get around that. So, but one of the issues with remarketing ads that no one ever talks about is if someone uses an incognito window, or they use something like DuckDuckGo, it is almost impossible to remarket to those people, because the whole idea of doing that is so you can't be tracked. So that's something to keep in mind with remarketing ads, is that there are people that you're simply not going to be able to remarket to. It's just,
Yeah.
Because some people don't want to be tracked across the web, and that's their right. I think remarketing ads can be really effective. I think display ads, in the context that Ian was talking about, they're better for brand awareness, top of the funnel kind of thing, because a lot of those people have never even heard of your business before. They don't know you exist, so they can be really effective from that standpoint. Just the regular display ads. Remarketing ads can be effective because these people have already interacted with your business, and you're basically reminding them saying, hey, you visited this page on our website, or you did this, you did that, or are you ready to schedule an appointment? And you can also, video ads can be very effective from a remarketing standpoint. Just YouTube ads. I don't know if Ian mentioned that or not, but YouTube ads can be effective from a brand awareness, top of the funnel kind of thing.
Yeah, I think Jeff's going to be talking about video ads.
Yeah, I think he is. So I don't want to really go into that too much, but Yelp ads can be really effective. Now, Yelp has kind of created a bad reputation for themselves in the past. But if you work with a Yelp partner, you don't ever have to engage directly with Yelp or their salespeople. So you can get around that, but they are, you have your Yelp listing, and a lot of people, Yelp ads actually can appear in search results, by the way, just so people know, and they can be really effective. They can have, according to Yelp, for what it's worth, up to a 1,400% ROI. But see, people on Yelp, not always, but they tend to be in an upper income bracket. Okay, they tend to have money, and the people that use Yelp, they are looking to buy even more so than Google search ads, because a lot of times people will click on a Google search ad and they're really just looking for information. Maybe they've never heard of your business. That may be the first interaction they ever had with your business. And they may not necessarily be ready to buy, but they're close. People on Yelp, usually they're ready to buy. So we've had really good results with Yelp ads. So I don't know. I think Ian doesn't agree with that, but
I'll add my 2 cents in a second.
Yeah. I mean, Yelp, Yelp's not going to work everywhere, in every market.
Yeah, there are certain geographic regions where Yelp practically doesn't. I mean, they do, but from a user standpoint, they practically don't exist. But if you're in certain areas like the Southwest, the Northeast, there are certain areas where Yelp is just huge. And if whatever your experience in the past, if you're in one of those geographic regions, you really shouldn't be ignoring Yelp.
Yeah. So one of the things that's interesting about Yelp is, when we talk about organic search results, inevitably, for many, not every market, not every type of search, but for many, a Yelp top list is going to show up below the Google map results, and typically the top 3 or 5 search results. So when you advertise on Yelp, and you're guaranteed placement on the top of that top list.
Well, Yelp is. The Yelp list is guaranteed to be there, not you necessarily.
Well, yeah, the Yelp. No, if you're advertising on Yelp and you click on a user clicks on the Yelp list, the advertiser is guaranteed to be at the top.
I was just trying to be clear that your business isn't showing, it's Yelp that's showing, and then somebody has to click through Yelp.
Exactly. But it's a top, it's a top 3 search result. So if people for some reason skip past the Google Map results, then this is a really important placement, and Yelp advertising can be really powerful there from that perspective. The other thing that's important to, like as Paul said, people use Yelp for one reason, and that is to make a buying decision. I mean, they're already pretty far along in the process of making a decision that they're ready to hire somebody. And the majority of Yelp ads Yelp searches are unbranded. They don't know the business that they're looking for. They know the solution, the product, or the service that they're looking for instead.
Yeah, if I could, first of all, I want to reinforce the remarketing part. I think it's so important for businesses that, regardless of what you're doing, from a paid advertising standpoint, regardless of what platform you're doing, it behooves you to do remarketing on every ad platform that you're advertising on, but especially on Google. Like, it just makes so much sense, because you're already investing in advertising. You might as well get those people back to you, and it's very inexpensive, because especially on Google, where you're paying per click, or even with the display, like, you're only targeting a very, very small group of people that have come to your website, right? So it's a slam dunk.
And across industries, and different websites, I think the average is only 4% of people convert the first time they visit your website. So remarketing ads are one of the cheapest, most powerful ways for you to stay top of mind after they visit. So
yeah, and I know you guys are Yelp partners, right? I know it works really well for you guys. I would just caution business owners, like, research, because again, Yelp has so much controversy around it. I've had anecdotal experiences with businesses that have been hurt by Yelp. There's a documentary that came out in 2019 called The $1 Billion Bully. Whatever that's worth, it's worth watching. And then I'd suggest going to third-party review sites like Capterra, who actually does have reviews of Yelp. Google, even if you Google Yelp, you'll find some reviews at their various locations, and it's just people's experiences, right? I think it's really important for you to understand kind of the pros and cons, because some businesses have experienced radical declines after they've stopped advertising with Yelp, and Yelp will argue it, but there's too much smoke. There's got to be fire.
Yeah,
that's why you should work with a Yelp partner instead of working directly with Yelp.
Yeah.
If you work directly with Yelp, there's a good chance you're going to get screwed. I won't deny that. But if you work with
which is
Yelp
horrible,
partner,
right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just that they have a super aggressive sales force, and there are a lot of advertising platforms that have super aggressive, really obnoxious salespeople.
Sure.
I won't go into all of them, but Angie historically has been really horrible lately. So I get why a lot of people are turned off. But again, Annie and I, you should always vet the solution that you're looking for, but you should also find a partner, not just a Yelp partner. I mean, a partner in general that can help you make the best decision to get the most bang for your buck, from an advertising platform.
For sure.
I strongly feel that Yelp is an underappreciated advertising powerhouse for many small businesses that have categorically written it off because of a lot of information that's floating around out there. Some of it may be true, some of it may not be true. But it's, when you look at the performance numbers, I'm telling you, it's worth taking a look at.
I've said my 2 cents.
And I have too. All right. So now I'd asked Jeff to talk about video ads, and I think his answer is kind of long. So we'll jump in here and see what all he has to say about video ads.
Okay, so let me talk about video ads now. Video ads are a very powerful marketing tool that leverages moving visuals, sound, and storytelling to grab viewers' attention and promote products or services, or your business in general. They come in various formats and appear across diverse platforms, and that makes them highly versatile. So let me break that down a little bit. In terms of platforms, how do video ads work? Well, the platforms you've got available are the ones you probably use every day. YouTube, it's the king of video distribution and video ads. So you can advertise, the ads you see at the front of videos, on longer videos, in the middle of them, you'll have ads. And the first 6 seconds, by the way, is most important on a YouTube ad because that can't be skipped. So you get the opportunity to skip an ad after 6 seconds. So pack the most punch in that first 6 seconds. If you grab somebody's attention, then they'll watch the rest of your ad. But even if you don't, they've at least seen the 6 seconds that you can use to take advantage of showing your brand off, getting a little bit of brand awareness. You can also put ads on social media platforms, ads on LinkedIn, video ads on LinkedIn, and of course, TikTok is coming on strong now, certain demographics. And then there are the streaming services. This is one of the things I think is kind of the most intriguing, opening up for a lot of small businesses. So streaming services like Hulu or Netflix, you can either go direct to them, use their ad management platforms to advertise on a single platform, or there are third-party platforms that you can use to broker ads out to multiple streaming platforms. Of course, you need to think about targeting. You need to think about your demographic, your audience, where they're hanging out, what they're watching, and also your budget. You don't want to spread it so thin that it's not doing any good anywhere. But depending on your budget, maybe a small budget. I've started campaigns on Hulu for as little as $500, and then the production cost comes into play, but you can get a lot of exposure. A view and impression on a streaming service is like a little over 3 cents. So on $32, $33 a day, you can get 1,000 impressions. That's 30,000 impressions a month. That's a lot. And especially since you can target, maybe not super succinctly, but you can target certainly down to the zip codes, down to some high level interest levels. So a lot of capability within the ad management platforms that you have available. In terms of delivery, there's really 3 types of delivery that go along with video ads. You have in-stream ads. There's the ads that play before, during, or after the main video content. So think of them as commercials, if you will, that are either surrounding or embedded within longer video content. Pre-roll ads, the ones that play first, are the most common, but again, they can be skipped. In-content ads are going to depend on the length of the content and also whether people are paying for premium services where they're not seeing in-content ads. Then you only have the pre-roll available. But the in-stream is pretty popular and gets you access to tapping into other people's viewing interests. Out-of-stream ads are standalone videos. They're ads themselves that appear outside of any other video content. So think of things that are embedded in website articles. Maybe you're reading an article about home improvement, and guess what? There's an ad sitting right there playing, and all you have to do is turn the sound on and hit restart. Or maybe there's a banner that would be considered an in-display ad, a banner ad sitting there in the content that you click that and it switches to a video and starts playing. So out-of-stream ads are independent video content that appears within website articles or on social media feeds. And then I just mentioned in-display ads are interactive ads that start as a banner and then they expand to play a video when you click. In terms of effectiveness, something like 91% of businesses today are using some form of video in their marketing. So that's great. Let's get the other 9% going. In terms of engagement, videos are inherently more engaging than static images. That old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a video has 30 frames, pictures, if you will, per second. So even a 10-second video has got 30 times 10, 300 times 1,000, 300,000 words equivalently, if I can be a little tongue-in-cheek with that. So the point is, videos are incredibly engaging. They're very powerful for capturing attention, for telling a story very quickly. And if you do it right, they can be shared. So studies show that viewers will retain something like 95% of a message conveyed through the video compared to only 10% from text. Be a little careful, though. You want them to talk about the product and the business, not just the cute video. I think we've all seen some ads on a certain big name football event that happens once a year that we can't mention by name because it's trademarked. Where people talk about the ad, but they have no remembrance of who the product was. You don't want that to be the case. You want to go for brand awareness. You want to go for showing off your business, your product, leading to sales. And video can be very good at that. Wyzel reports that 84% of consumers say that watching a video has convinced them to buy a product or service. And in terms of performance, the ROI can be good, or return on ad spend is another way of measuring it. WordStream reports that on average, the return on ad spend is 200% for video ads. So that's great. So when are they most effective? Telling your story, talking about complex products, it's ideal for showcasing products with intricate features or that require demonstration because you can do just that. You can show it off and you can demonstrate it. They're great for creating emotional connection. Why do you think we see all the videos of kids with parents with their kids, or with adults with their aging parents, or with pets? Because those are all things that evoke emotions. They create emotional connections. So you can evoke emotions, you can tell stories, and that makes them perfect for building brand affinity. And then if you have an audience that maybe has a shorter attention span, a short, captivating video, not only are they economical because they're not chewing up a lot of airtime, but they're a great way to grab attention in today's fast-paced world. And if you can grab 15 seconds of someone's attention and build that mental awareness, that brain recognition, and then get them to, move through know, like, and trust, and then take your call to action, that's great. So in terms of some resources to offer, some of the top video ad experts are Drayton Bird, the founder of Vyral. That's VYRAL, and they're a video marketing agency. They put out some great content, video as you would expect. Wistia is a video hosting company. So in a sense, a YouTube competitor. They have some pluses and minuses. They don't try and hijack your content, but they also don't act as a search engine. So they're not going to, if you're doing a unboxing video, if you're doing a demonstration, educational, informative video, I'd say you want it to be on YouTube so that people can find it there. But Wistia is a great hosting platform for videos. So they have a lot of educational resources. And then Marie Poulin. Marie is the head of YouTube ads marketing at Google. Google owns YouTube. So Google, through YouTube, through Marie Poulin, put out a lot of great content. So by understanding how video ads work and where they excel, you can leverage their power to create compelling marketing campaigns that resonate with your target audience. As I said, it's easy to get started. Everybody's got a smartphone. Just use your smartphone to record content. As long as the audio is good, the video is passable, you can put it up on social media, you can put it up on YouTube. If you're going to go to a streaming service, you do need a much higher quality video. You need HD, if not 4K resolution. That generally means you're going to need to do some professional video production, but that doesn't mean half-day multi-camera shoots with lots of actors and talent. You can still do something very economically in the few hundreds or maybe $1,000 range that you can then leverage across streaming services. So,
okay, so Ian's shrunk down here. He's getting ready for a battle posture to talk about social media advertising, which is, gosh, there's so many different alternatives. We've already talked about so many different types of ads. But Ian, if you could just kind of go through, and kind of do a quick highlight of, the most popular types of social media ads out there.
Sure. Yeah. And just quick comment about video ads. The interesting thing about video now is that it's become so much more mainstream. So, smart TVs have really brought YouTube to almost like in front of families rather than individual viewers sometimes. And then Amazon Prime, if you're a Prime member, you would get Prime movies for free as part of your membership. And now they've introduced ads. So the video ad platform is becoming much more mainstream than it used to be. So it can be very powerful.
Walmart just bought the Vizio TV line too. So everybody's thinking that Walmart's going to leverage, in TV programming, with click-through ads, which are probably going to be video.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing he mentioned, it's a little off topic, but he talked about Wistia, which is it's a paid hosting platform. And if you're going to embed a video on your website, it's not really a bad idea to pay for Wistia and embed that video on your website. I'm not saying you shouldn't put that video on YouTube, but if you use something like Wistia and embed that video on your website, people can't click through and go to YouTube. Which is what's going to happen when you embed a YouTube video.
or get those horrible related videos
Exactly.
that pop up at the end of your video that nobody really wants, right?
Right.
And sometimes are not appropriate for what you want to have your brand known for.
Yeah.
Because you don't
Agreed.
control that. I mean, that's the algorithm of the user that is watching the video.
Yep. There used to be technical workarounds for that, but I think those have been shut down now, right?
Well, of course they have been.
Yeah.
It's Google.
All right. So
Obviously, yeah, I mean, obviously video is a part of social media advertising as well. So
good segue, Ken. So the reason social media advertising is so important is because people spend so much time on their social networks of choice, right? So you've got a captivated audience there, and if you choose the platform properly of where people are your ideal customers, if they're spending time on a particular channel more than others, then you have an opportunity to advertise to them. So, Facebook by far is probably the most common and accessible social media ad platform there is. And I'm just going to group Facebook and Instagram together because Instagram is owned by Facebook. If you advertise on Facebook, you can advertise at the same time to Instagram. You can do highly targeted ads. Again, these are disruptive or interruptive type ads. They are not like a search ad where somebody's pre-qualifying themselves by their action, but in essence, they are pre-qualifying themselves by the behaviors that they've shown over time, because you may not know this, but all of the social media platforms track that because they want to make their ad platforms relevant. They also want to serve up more and more content that's relevant to your interests, right? So that's why if you look at a particular type of video, you look at a particular type of post, you like a post, you're going to see more of that business or that person. You're going to see more videos. So all of that goes into their algorithms for advertising. But you can do different types of formats too on these platforms. Speaking of Facebook and Instagram, you can do images, you can do carousel ads, which is multiple images, kind of like little slides that go across. That can be very powerful if done properly. You can do video ads. We talked about the power of video. And these are displayed across Facebook, Instagram. There is kind of a pay-per-click element to these, but truthfully, most of the ads you're going to do on any social platform is going to be pay per impression. Like, it just works out that way more often than not. There are multiple types of ad formats you can do. You can target by people's interests. To some extent, you can target by their demographics, depending on where they're located. Some of that demographic information is in the back end of Facebook. So you can do some really interesting things. It can be very powerful. The cost per impression is usually lower than on the Google platform. But you tend to get a lower conversion rate or click-through rate. So the click-through rate on Facebook ads is 0.9%, so not even a whole percentage point. But it can vary depending on your ad creative, obviously, your targeting, how well you target the interest, the people, and always you should have a very clue. We haven't really talked about this, but we've talked about it on other podcasts where you have to have continuity throughout your, especially on like the Google platform where somebody searches for a particular keyword, you want a relevant ad to pop up with relevant ad copy. You want to send them to a relevant landing page, right? So there has to be continuity through this. Some top experts in Facebook, Instagram ad world is Jon Loomer and Mary Smith. Jon Loomer's really fascinating because what he's done is he's done a lot of testing and a lot of creating related to it. It's almost a form of funnel building or retargeting of people who react to your initial ad, where you continue to kind of raise the bar of interest. You get micro decisions. Really interesting guy to check into if you're interested in Facebook ads.
And has also been on our podcast, as has Andrea Vall, who we should also shout out as a Facebook ad expert.
Good point. Yep. Another pretty big one is LinkedIn ads, especially if you're a professional of some sort. You can really target people based on, who they are, what their role is in a business, what business or industry they're in. It's probably one of the few channels where you can actually do some really relevant B2B marketing and reaching those professionals. It's hard to do on some of the other channels. Its effectiveness, it can be very effective. It's also probably one of the most expensive ad platforms out there. So you have to have a pretty good sized budget, meaning, if you want to do any kind of advertising, you should at least have $1,000 per month just on the ad spend alone, not on the management fees. Average lead gen costs out there is usually like $300 per lead, which depending on your industry can be super, super inexpensive, right? Because if you're landing big whales of clients, that can be a small number, but again, you have to make sure that strategically it works for you. And LinkedIn puts out some great content from their marketing solutions team. So if you want to investigate that, they also once in a while they'll offer you as a business. So if you have a business page set up, they'll often offer you a limited time, $500 or $650 credit towards advertising, just to try to get you to dip your toe in. So watch for that kind of stuff if you're mildly interested in checking it out. TikTok ads. TikTok obviously is a bit of a juggernaut right now, especially with young people, right? We have the recent stuff going down in the US where, TikTok may or may not exist in the near future. We don't know, or it may look radically different. But all of that's yet to be determined. Short video ads on TikTok are really popular. It's a great way to reach a younger demographic. That stuff is just mental candy floss that's on the platform. It's very easy just to get caught in this cycle of watching, and it's not super, super obvious sometimes what's an ad and what's not an ad. So you can really get your voice out there if you do it in a good way. It is an emerging platform. It's gotten lots of buzz. There is limited data available as to how effective advertising is, but some businesses have found it to be very effective. But again, I would be cautious about putting all your eggs in that basket when there's so much controversy going around it. But sometimes, like if you've explored the other options and you want to dip your toe in and you're trying to attract a younger demographic, give it a try, throw some money at it, but do it well, do it strategically. Don't just do it, ad hoc.
All right.
Did I miss any? Are there other social channels that, like, we didn't talk about X, but X from a very broad standpoint, it still has a lot of followers, people involved in it. But yeah, we don't, right now, none of our clients are using X to advertise because it's more like a broad shotgun approach rather than a targeted. Laser.
And in a big brand, big brands still tend to do that, which is not really, who we're trying to help here. So, Paul, let's kind of pivot to talk a little bit about using the right ad for the right niche or niche, depending on your preference. So you talked about remarketing ads and Yelp ads before. Talk about how those two types of ads, can work well for particular niches. Which niches are you looking at?
Well, I think retargeting, it's really good if you have a longer sales cycle, okay? Because you want to stay in front of people. If you have a product or service that people tend to buy immediately, retargeting probably isn't even necessary, but for the most part, I'd say there's very few businesses that really can't benefit from remarket or retargeting ads, whatever you want to call it, because you want to stay top of mind. But it's definitely better for businesses with longer sales cycles. And Ian mentioned something about ad spend, and as much as Google will deny it, and I think people just need to have a realistic understanding of online advertising. The more you spend, the better results you're going to get. You will get higher click-through rates. You will get higher conversion rates. And we see this. So if you have limited ads, so if you just have a few $100s a month, you might want to pick one zip code that you're going to target. You know, if you have, don't take $500 a month and think you're going to target Los Angeles. Okay. It's just not going to work. But Yelp ads, and Ken, you're actually more familiar with Yelp ads than I am. They were talking about rolling out retargeting ads. Did they do that?
Yeah, there's a retargeting aspect of Yelp ads. It's tied to the email newsletters that they send, and also based on previous searches that you may have done on the Yelp platform.
Okay. So yeah, I knew I'd heard something about it. I just wasn't sure if they had done that. But again, with Yelp ads, I think it's really geographic specific, because like I said earlier, there's certain areas of the country where people just don't use Yelp. But if you're in an area of a country where people use Yelp, I think you can't ignore it. And the other thing with people that are on Yelp, they're looking to buy. Okay. They have reached that stage of their buyer's journey, if you will, that they're looking to buy. And I know there's a lot of controversy around Yelp, but if you're in an area of the country where people use Yelp, I don't think you should ignore it. But yeah, retargeting, I don't think there's an industry where it's not going to be beneficial. Like I said, unless you have a product or service where people just buy immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with Yelp ads, it's interesting because we've been doing a lot of research to see a lot of people think Yelp is only for restaurants or nightclubs and maybe boutiques or places like that. But, it's amazing when you actually dig into the data and you look at who's advertising and the success that they're having. Service area businesses like roofers, remodelers, plumbers, HVAC contractors can do extremely well on the platform. And it's less competitive than Google. So it can be a real viable alternative. If you're an accountant, maybe not. It depends on if it's a real heavily used geographic area that's big Yelp usage, like San Francisco. Maybe travel agents, probably not. Things like that. So it's not perfect and it's not great. Realtors can be good, but it can also be a real challenge for them. So it's it's definitely got its pros and cons for sure. I asked Jeff to talk about video ads again, since he talked about that previously. So here's what he had to say in terms of niche performance.
Okay, so now the question is selecting the right ad for the right niche or niche for Ian's benefit. Again, back to video ads. So YouTube, InStream, inline display ads that click into videos. I think that really these could work for anyone. Again, because videos are so powerful about telling stories. But especially if you've got a complex product or anything that benefits from visual storytelling, videos are a great way to do that. I ran a video ad campaign for a barbecue equipment, grill sales company. And, the video was strong, powerful music and a lot of pictures of mouth-watering meat, chicken, ribs on grills and food platters being served. You can imagine my mouth's watering right now just from talking about that. So if you're doing something that can benefit from visual storytelling, by all means, consider video. Again, why? Because it's very highly engaging and excellent for brand building, showcasing products, and driving sales. In terms of some stats I can throw at you, 95% message retention. That's huge compared to only 10% message retention for text, and 200% return on ad spend. It's worth experimenting with for sure, and you can get into it fairly inexpensively. even on streaming services. You throw $100 a day out for a week, you can get quite a few impressions and start to get some brand recognition going. Do that for a month, even more powerful, and just keep at it like everything. It's about know, like, and trust, and getting people then to move on to take an action. Okay, now let's talk about social media ads on a few of the platforms. So Facebook ads are great for broad audience targeting. They're also very good for retargeting. Traffic that's been to your website then can start seeing ads on Facebook. They're good for brand awareness. You can use them for lead generation. You can use them for sales development, making sales, pushing people to an e-commerce site. They're strong for B2C, business to consumer, and e-commerce. And in terms of stats, you can expect about not quite 1%, 0.9% average click-through rate. That's a stat from WordStream. So again, it's a numbers game, right? Anything is a numbers game when you're talking about repetition and brand awareness and getting people to know, like, and trust you, and then take the action that you're recommending. LinkedIn ads are better for professionals if you're targeting professionals or doing B2B marketing, business to business marketing. And lead generation, you can also do on LinkedIn. And the average lead cost, the cost to get one lead is, according to WordStream again, $300 on LinkedIn. So it's a little bit higher, but if you're selling a professional service, if you're selling a very high value service or product, $300 could be a very, very good value. I will say from personal experience that, and conversations with the LinkedIn specialists, you do need to have a broader audience and a higher budget than you might think. In conversations about why some of the campaigns I ran weren't getting as much results as I wanted, they basically told me your audience was too small, and by too small, I'm talking tens of thousands. So if you're after a very broad business audience, maybe if you're targeting a very, very narrow role within a specific industry, it may not be as good for you. TikTok ads. TikTok has a.
Well, we're running close on time, so we'll. I don't know how much of our audience is really taking advantage of TikTok right now, but one of the things that drives me nuts about LinkedIn ads is it should be a great potential advertising channel for business to business, because you can target exactly the name of the profession of the people that you're trying to reach. So I was talking to a photographer friend of mine today. We were just brainstorming, and there's a particular function in a business that I think makes a lot of sense. And I don't want to steal his thunder, so I'm not going to tell you what it is, but there's a job title that he could target that should perform great. But what Jeff said is, you got to spend buku bucks and have a massive size audience. He's only going to serve the St. Louis area. So it's like, I don't know why they do that to themselves. I really think, in my experience, LinkedIn ads have been very disappointing.
I don't disagree with you.
Maybe that's why, is because they're trying to force this massive reach and broaden it, but yet their targeting criteria give you the ability to be very narrow. So it's like, okay. So Ian, we're running close on time. I definitely want to talk and have you talk about how you see search ads, and also display ads from a niche perspective. And if we still have some time, we may try to talk a little bit more about how different types of businesses can kind of put together a multi-channel approach. So if you could go ahead and talk about search and display ads.
Sure. Yeah, I think actually search ads specifically, before, again, I would layer them. So I would do search first, then I would do display as a secondary layer on top of that. But I would say search ads can fit almost any business. There's probably a few industries where it's less effective, but it's pretty rare. Like, a lot of industries we support, we see it working tremendously well, whether it's from dentistry to home services to, like it's just a slam dunk, right? The one where, the one area I think people need to be cognitive of, hard word to say today, is that
Cognizant.
again, with anything, targeting is really key. Like a lot of businesses that we've supported have kind of they have big dreams, right? So they're like, hey, let's, even though we're a dentist in this town, we want to capture all of the patients from the surrounding areas, right? Usually that doesn't work very well because there's competitive dentists or businesses in those surrounding areas that people are far more likely to choose if it's a local service, right? So I think you need to be very strategic. I think you need to be reasonable about how you do it, because you don't want to burn your budget on a larger target audience than you need to. So keep it focused. So
Ian, if I can judge, that's a really good point that you made. Like with a dentist, people are driving to you and they're only going to drive so far, as opposed to a service area business where if they're coming to me, I don't care how far they have to drive. So really good point.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I mean, we have some dentists who have people driving 2 hours to go back to them, but that's because they've been their dentist for 20 years. You're not going to advertise for people 2 hours away to attract them, right? Like it's, right. But so I mean, search ads work great for e-commerce. They work really good for legal services, travel booking, you name it, home services. And the one thing I would also add to this is that we haven't broached like local service ads or how search ads show up in map listings, right? So it's all this layering effect that if you do search ads, you're going to show up in multiple places on Google's platform.
Yeah.
The display ads.
Real quick. So there are some industries where search ads just flat out don't work because,
like what?
Firearms, cannabis industry, because they're regulated. Even Google is pretty stringent, as is Facebook, about anything that it perceives as being discriminatory, which could be based on socioeconomic nuances of a particular business. So, housing policies, things like that kind of broach equal open access for people may have limitations on the advertising capabilities.
That's a really good point, Ken. Yeah. And we haven't really talked about this in other areas, but like in some industries, it's really hard to do certain types of ads on certain social channels. Dentistry in particular isn't always easy to do on Facebook, Instagram, because they are so strict on creating a comparison between you and somebody that might have nicer teeth than you. And of course, when you're talking to people, you're trying to actually connect with them on an emotional level that, hey, if you have crooked teeth, we can be the solution to that problem, right? But Facebook's very stringent on, making somebody feel less good at themselves because they have crooked teeth. So there's challenges on every ad platform for sure.
Which is crazy because they're looking at the ad potentially because they are interested in getting that fixed.
But you might make them feel bad.
Yeah.
So
no comment, but tough sometimes. We've had ads, flagged because you're saying if you have crooked teeth, come to the orthodontist. Like, what else are you supposed to say?
Yeah, exactly.
We had an ad. This was a long time ago. We had an ad rejected on Facebook. It was about a bathroom remodel because it might make people that can't afford a bathroom remodel feel bad. Okay, so directly to your point, Ian, it's ridiculous.
It's tough.
Well, and that's just a great point, that again, we've talked about this before. You don't own the search, you don't own the advertising platform. You're at the mercy of how they operate it, what they choose to allow to run and not run. And so you never want to build your house on rented land. You always need to think about that website. And that's why Ian always hammers home SEO, SEO, SEO. Even though we don't own and control Google, we're at the mercy of their algorithm and those changes. It's still, we do own the home in the sense of the website, and we can respond and adapt to those rules.
Yeah, and we're not talking today about like the funnel and what to do after somebody sees an ad, but oh my goodness, like anybody out there worth their salt in giving you guidance for advertising of any kind should be guiding you to get them off the ad platform as quickly as possible. There are benefits to like in position lead forms on Facebook and that stuff like that, but your goal should always be to capture the person's information so that you can take them off that platform. Because just what you said, you want to own that relationship, and the quicker you can do that, the better. And usually that's to send them to your website and some sort of call to action. But just quickly on display ads. Again, display ads are great for retargeting website visitors, brand awareness, promoting visual content, reinforcing your brand over and over and over, right? Like the old stat was that for somebody to take action, it took 7 impressions of your business or your brand. Now that's, I've heard 16 times, I've heard 22 times, right? Like it's higher. We know that. So the more impressions you can get in front of people, the better. Fashion brands, entertainment, software, something with strong visual identity, like those are really good for display ads. But I would even say, if you're a home service, just keep hammering that home, that you're there, that you're in that area, that you can serve people, and you're going to reach a broader audience for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think with display ads too, a lot of a mistake that people make is they just kind of set it and forget it, and then you run into the banner blindness issue, because once people start to see something over and over and over again, they just ignore it, and skip over it. You can be really effective at positioning your building brand awareness, running an ad, a display ad that highlights a great customer experience, builds trust, and then periodically having maybe a call to action to get somebody to move forward out of that, and so you can actually use a combination of ads, kind of rotating. But again, it's more complicated to do that, but it can be very powerful to kind of incorporate that kind of a strategy into a display ad mix. So
let me just add to that. That's such a strong, good, solid point that every person watching this should know, is that because we have lots of statistical data from when we take over people's accounts, they hire us to do their ad campaigns, and we're able to look back in history. And a lot of people do set it and forget it. Even agencies will set it and forget it. And everything diminishes over time. Isn't there like the second law of thermodynamics that everything breaks down over time or something like that? It's absolutely true with ads. And it's because the algorithms, it watches the effectiveness, right? And so if your ad ceases to be as effective, it's going to show it less. They're going to use up your budget. Don't get me wrong, but you might be presenting at 2 a.m. versus at prime time. So you've got to keep on top of these things and keep them fresh.
Well, and also I think the platforms like to see that you're paying attention. So periodically going in and swapping out an ad shows the platform you're trying to actively manage it, because ultimately their goal, they only make money when somebody is finding that it's valuable for them to be paid to run the ads. And that only happens if the user experience of the people receiving the ads is positive. So you can't just set it, forget it, and think you're all good. So
I need to say one more thing, because what you just said tweaked like a pet peeve of mine. With this is just related to Google Ads, but I think it's happening more and more on all ad platforms. Google's so smart, right? They want to encourage you to keep optimizing your ad campaigns. So what they've done is they now give you recommendations. And so the recommendations, this is why you need experienced people to manage your ads, because if you take every recommendation that Google does, your ad effectiveness, your cost per your ad effectiveness will go down. Unfortunately, your cost per conversions will go up, and they will make more money and you will get less business. That's my viewpoint, because I've watched it happen. We've done testing, and you have to be really careful about accepting all of the algorithms or the AI's recommendations in there. But it's there's even, with the Google ad platform, you can even set it to accept the recommendations as they come up, and you can set certain criteria. But, I think a lot of businesses who manage their own ads probably do that because it's just easy. And it's very dangerous to do. You're putting your budget into the hands of the advertiser, which is really, really dangerous.
Yeah. Paul, I'm sure you don't have anything to say about that.
You have no idea. The biggest culprit there on those recommendations is the keyword recommendations. And I don't mean broad match versus phrase. Okay. They will recommend all kinds of keywords that have absolutely nothing to do with your business.
Yeah. They may somehow be like semantically relevant, but they don't. I hear you. And I totally agree. Like a lot of them.
Yeah, they're related, like the chicken broth you buy at the store, which means that a chicken may have walked past the manufacturing facility 100 miles away. Okay, that's how they're related.
Best analogy of the day, Paul.
Yeah, there we go. I think that's a good place to wrap up. We've got some more that we'd love to share with you, but we're over an hour. So I think maybe we'll cover that in another episode. So Paul, Ian, anything else to add before we head out?
No, not really. Just if you're a local business, keep in mind that Google Business Profile is king.
Yep. The one thing I would add to that too is that if you've been advertising for 5, 10, 15 years online, COVID was painful for long-term advertisers because so many more businesses came online and started to invest in Google Ads. And also, as with any ad platform, we actually don't know, some of the profitability stuff behind there and the cost, sometimes the cost and the effectiveness of it. But I would just say Google Ads is still highly effective, but the cost you're paying per conversion has definitely risen in every industry that I've seen since COVID. And it's just because it's an auction and there's more people bidding on it, right? So you have to take that into account for sure.
Yeah. I think a lot of people too, they think that advertising is just the easy button. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to put forth the effort to do SEO or, this or that, or I don't want to put together a postcard campaign, and which may or may not be the right strategies and set of tactics for you. But online ads are great and they can be great, but don't just think that it's the easy, fast way to do it. A lot of likewise, people think, oh, I'll gather a list of email addresses and go send an email address or an email blast out because it's an easy button. We're in a world where there's not easy. Everything is requiring more and more work and due diligence and thoughtfulness, and that's why we always hammer home you gotta look at strategy first.
Yeah.
So
great.
All right,
great
Ian, take us out.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, everyone. I'm just going to get right to it. Keep calm and mark it on, folks.